So cars on the grid then for round one of the RLM Racing Bikesports Championship, the opening round of the 2019 season. And a great field of cars that we have for this one, more than 20 cars, which is excellent for this kind of racing. The majority of them are radicals, but there's the odd interloper thrown in from Mittel and from Sabre in particular. And it's going to be a rolling start for this one. It's going to be an 18-minute plus 1 lap race as well. We've got Joe Stables back out on the grid on the outside of row 1 in the number 98 Radical SR3. He is defending his championship, having won it last season from Lee Torrey, and his dad, Richard Stables, was third in the RLM Racing Bikesports Championship for 2018. Already the green flag lap is getting underway, led around by the Renault Megane safety car, and this is how the grid will line up. So on pole position it will be Joe, actually it's slightly different to what is on your screen in that it is Josh Smith and Joe Stables on the front row of the grid, then Joe Locke and Doug Carter are on row 2. Then third row should be Charles Hall and Chris Breen. The fourth row, Ashley Hicklin and Scott Mittel, and the fifth row, Robert Rees and Mark Boot. Row 6, Tony Barwell and Adrian Reynaud. Row 7, Joe Spencer and Stephen Bell. The 8th row, Andrew Gord and Ian Charles. Row 9, Andrew Kimpton and Mark Grayson. Row 10, Jeff Farmer and Neil Harris. Alistair Smart and Sean Peters on row 11, and then Charles Adrian will be on his back on row 12. So slightly different to what you've seen on the screen there, I'm afraid, but nevertheless Josh should be in for a very entertaining 20 minutes or so.
I think we were missing Charles Hall from row 3. He Sports Specials class winner in the past, coming out in the Radical for the first time. I think he's done a bit of single-seater racing as well. Got quite a high level, I think, over in America and in Europe, but Charles Hall missing, I think, in his SR3. So rolling starts, we won't take long to get going, but it was Josh Smith who absolutely was flying in qualifying. He was a couple of seconds quicker than the rest. He's a multiple Open Sports Series champion, racing against much quicker cars in that category and still winning the races. So he's coming over to bringing his PR6 over to the RLM Racing Bikesports Championship and really proving to be very quick ahead of Joe Stables. We've got to remember though, Josh Smith is in one of the modified engine cars, the Class A cars, where Joe Stables in the standard engine cars in Class B. Generally not been that much of a difference between the two of them, but here in 2019 with Josh Smith, a very quick driver in one of those Class A cars, that's really showing.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Stables won 9 of the races outright last season, didn't he? So, but he certainly was on form for much of last year, wrapping it up with a meeting to spare. Be interesting to see how the race pace differs from what we saw in qualifying. Josh Smith in that PR6, Joe Stables in the SR3. Cars to watch out for were the cars that aren't radicals, really. You've got the Scott Mittel number 27 car, first time out in Bikesports, guys, for the Mittel MC41R, former low-cost champion and RGB champion as well. Scott Mittel, who, with his father, have been developing this car towards racing in Bikesports. We'll try and pick up on that as the race goes on, so watch out for that. That's number 27. And also the Sabre Scala for another former RGB Sports 1000 racer. That's Stephen Bell, number 86, will start on row 7. And
they've both got smaller engines, 1 litre cars, but Scott Mittel up in 7th overall.
Yep, they race in a separate class, Class C. So Class A is for cars with tuned engines, Class B for production engines, all bike engines of course, and Class C is for cars of less than 1100cc. But the car's coming round on their rolling lap. The safety car will pull into the pit lane, which it does now. So who is going to get the best of the starts? It's number 11, Josh Smith, in the white and orange car. It's the black and yellow car for Joe Stables. Then you've got Joe Locke in the all-green machine on row 2 as the race gets underway then, and straight away Joe Stables tucks back in behind the pole position man Josh Smith as they turn their way through Redgate Corner for the first time. It's side by side for second position. It was Joe Locke trying to go around the outside of Joe Stables for second place, but he couldn't quite make that work, and it looks like as a consequence he's got a bit of a challenge on his hands for that position. It's Chris Breen, number 2, that's just behind him.
Trouble there for Doug Carter, who's qualified fantastically on the second row, but he's dropped back to, I think, something like 7th place, and somebody's had a bit of a moment at the old hairpin, but got away with it. Very dusty down there. But there's Josh Smith leading from Joe Stables, who's got Joe Locke right on his tail. Locke won at the Snetterton at the final round last year after racing saloon cars previously. Up towards Coppice they go, the top 3 just breaking away, but importantly, and Josh Smith, he's not getting away from the 2 behind.
He's not, so that qualifying advantage of 2.21 seconds, well, it's not yet coming to bear within the course of this race. So they're heading through Coppice then. Leaders already down towards the Fogarty S's. Smith is just now starting to pull out a little bit of a gap. He's been a regular at Castle Combe as well. He made his racing debut, of course, with the 750 Motor Club in RGB, probably about 12 or 13 years ago now, as a teenager, racing alongside his dad, Darcy Smith. There is that number 27 Mattel, making its race debut then, and it looks absolutely fantastic, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Of course, Mattel cars have run in the RGB Sports 1000 Championship. They looked out the podium last weekend at Brands Hatch and now making their debut with the manufacturer owner Scott Mattel this weekend. Very much a different looking car to the Radical. Scott Mattel buried there in the cockpit and putting the pressure onto Ash Hicklin just in front of him. But in front of the pair of them, not getting his tyres up to temperature at all, was Chris Breen. He was weaving side to side. Meanwhile, Jeff Farmer's had a bit of a moment by the looks of things, but there's Ash Hicklin, who's in 5th place behind Josh Smith, Joe Stables, Joe Locke and Chris Breen. Actually, Hicklin is second in Class A because they're all Class B cars. Is that right? No, Joe Locke's a Class A car, isn't he? So it's in A it's Smith, Locke and Hicklin, and in B it's Stables and Breen.
So there you were looking at the number 16 car of Ash Hicklin. And it's a spin for Scott Mattel, I'm afraid. Down the Craner curves towards the old hairpin. He's just about kept it out of the gravel. So that's number 27, Scott Mattel in the MC41R, pushing that car to its limits on its first time out.
I wonder if some of that was sort of the aero push. As the other Class C car's gone off as well down there. That's in a separate incident for Stephen Bell. But I was wondering, their first time really, Scott Mattel's been following cars, isn't it, with real aero on. I wonder if he just got a bit tricked out by that. We didn't see it, so we can't really comment on it too much, apart from speculate on what could have happened down there at the old hairpin. But already in the GP loop are the leaders. Josh Smith, is he getting away? Just looking out the back of the commentary box here. He's getting away, but not too desperately. But it's a great battle we're watching on the screen.
And that is Joe Spencer, number 93. He's in 10th place, about to go into 9th position as they made their way down towards the old hairpin. Joe Spencer on his Bikesports debut, who's a winner at Mallory Park on Boxing Day in the plum pudding racing in this car. But there is a yellow flag now waving at the exit of Goddard. I think that's where Jeff Farmer went off, isn't it?
Yeah, looked like that car was on the left-hand side of the circuit against the barriers. The Stables moving up the field. Spencer moving up through the field. He started in 13th place. And I think you said, Ian, there he worked his way into the top 10. He's 8th place, actually. 8th for Joe Spencer. 13th he started. So 5-place gain for the driver making his debut in a Radical for a full season this year.
But we do have that car off and stopped on the circuit down at the old hairpin, which is the number 86 car. Safety car lights are on, so that is possibly going to make an appearance before too much longer. But for the moment, there is Joe Spence, the Northwest Sports and Saloon Car champion. But that was in a Locus Saki, an RSM, Rob Spencer Motorsport prepared car. But now switching to the Radical for the first time. He's also been building a Spire as well, but he's decided to go with this number 93 Radical, and he's still getting to grips with it.
He was using all the curbs and the grass on the inside of McLean's there, so really pushing on is Joe Spencer, but he'll have to slow down because we can see there the 750 Motor Club safety car, the RLM McGann's making its way out onto the Donington Park circuit to clear that car that spun or just come to a halt if not. Stephen Bell, the Sabre, down at the Craner curve. So Josh Smith's 2.3 second lead will come down to nothing, but the lap times, you wondered, Ian, if they'd be different to qualifying. Well, Josh Smith is some 3 seconds slower than he managed this morning. So it makes it much more interesting than perhaps what we may have expected up front.
Yeah, absolutely. So safety car now moves off, and it will be caught by Josh Smith. The yellow flags waved by the marshals, and the safety car boards out all around the circuit to let the drivers know that the safety car is on track. So we've seen all of these drivers, that car stationary at the foot of the hill at the old hairpin as well, so they'll know probably exactly what this is for.
It was just the 2 cars that went missing, Stephen Bell and Jeff Farmer. Scott Mattel got back going, but right at the back of the field we had 22 starters, so somebody didn't make the start. Of course, that was Charles Hull, wasn't it?
Yep.
So, and the marshals already hard at work down there at the Craner Curve. Big thanks to all the marshals here at Donington Park this weekend. Great job already they're doing to push the car of Stephen Bell out the way. We've had a few incidents this morning as well they've had to deal with, so good job from the guys here. It's a very busy weekend in the UK, Easter weekend. There's so many race meetings on, and it must probably be thousands of marshals in the UK at work this weekend, Ian.
Yeah, absolutely doing fantastic jobs, whether it's on circuit racing or any other discipline of motorsport as well. Big meetings at Alton Park, of course, this weekend, and Castle Combe today as well. But good numbers of them here at Donington Park, so many thanks to all of them for their continued support of 750 Motor Club events. So they've got Stephen Bell's car off the edge of the circuit. They've got him onto the grass. Now the snatch vehicle's just, you can see in the background, going to come across the circuit. Now all the train of cars have gone through to try and move that to a position of even more safety. So all of the gaps come down, Josh. It was, when they crossed the line, 1.43 seconds for Josh Smith, but it'll be much less than that now.
2.2, I think it was, before the safety car came out. So,
yeah,
not, like we say, not a huge gap really compared to what we saw in qualifying. So it's Josh Smith that does lead from Joe Stables. That's a PR6 from an SR3, so two different types of Radical. The PR6 based on the Pro Sport, which was one of the early Radicals. I think Radicals debuted in the 750 Motor Club in 1998 when Phil Abbott and Mick Hyde started the company up, and it's been a huge success for Radical sports cars. Over 1,000 of just the SR3 model have been made. It's been really a huge part of British club racing ever since Radical brought that in, and lots of similar cars have come. But as you can see, within the Bikesports Championship, which is open to any bike engine car, it is Radical that dominated it. But it's good to see those couple more brands come in this year, as you mentioned earlier. And of course, so we have seen a car that's not a Radical win the championship. That was Tim Gray in Aspire just a few years ago. And
we've not got any Spires on the grid, at least this weekend. Hopefully we will have during the course of the rest of the season.
The recovery's almost been complete, and the safety car's doing a very slow lap. This is what we saw at Brands Hatch last weekend, where we try and get the racing done as quickly as possible by doing these slower safety car laps and then sort of making a decision quite quickly. So the safety car making its way through the S's. Lights still on. They're waiting to see if we can get that recovery vehicle behind the barriers in time. It's going to be a bit tight, I would think.
Yeah, I would think possibly. It's a little bit too close to the pit entrance for them now to turn off the safety car lights.
But
they have done. I think, so looking out of the window.
Absolutely, yeah, we saw that on the screen as well as you were peering towards the safety car. So really good work again from the 750 Motor Club officials not to need that extra safety car lap, which would have wasted three more minutes of this race. We've had 8 minutes of it, so we've still got 10 minutes and a lap to go, so plenty of time to do some racing. Josh Smith's very experienced, though. What can he do at the safety car restart?
They've got to negotiate their way around Goddard, then the safety car will peel in, and we'll get underway again with about 9.5 minutes plus one lap of the race remaining. Over the line they go then, single file this time, not double file as it was for the original start. And it's Josh Smith that already put some daylight between himself and Joe Stables in second place, Joe Locke there in third, Chris Breen is fourth. No one really stealing much of a march there, no one using that safety car restart to their advantage particularly, I didn't think. So it's Stables there, the champion from last year, in second place ahead of Joe Locke, who made an unlikely switch from the Civic Cup into Bikesports with a degree of success, as Josh mentioned, last year. Chris Breen fourth, and fifth Ashley Hicklin. But Josh Smith not getting away this time.
Just want to make a correction. Scott Mattel did do a big moment there for Joe Stables. Scott Mattel did do another lap, but then pulled off somewhere. So Scott Mattel is into retirement. So 19 cars still running through. They come, and Joe Stables is pushing as hard as he dare. He was the one that had the big moment through McLean's out over the grass, but he's right on the tail of George Smith, where he was before that mistake. That's allowed Smith to get away down in towards the S's. Stables, remember though, does lead Class B. His closest rival in that class is Chris Breen, but he's got Joe Locke between the pair of them. Down into the Melbourne hairpin comes the Bridgewater College run car of Josh Smith, who accelerates off of the corner, off of the Melbourne hairpin, and down towards the final corner on this Donington Grand Prix circuit, the Goddard's hairpin, the left-hander that brings us back onto the pit straight. Lap number 5 about to be completed.
Yep. We've had that safety car lap, first flying lap after the safety car, and what is the gap? Well, Josh Smith has just done a personal best lap of 1:31.09, and his gap is almost as big as it was before the safety car came out. It's a 1.76 second gap he has over Joe Stables, helped by that mistake that Stables made up at McLean's. There's Joe Spencer again, so he's in 7th place now, but he's only half a second behind the number 26 car, Mark Boot, who was a late entry to the programme, and about 1.3 seconds ahead of them is Ashley Hicklin.
That's a place gained off the restart then from Joe Spencer. He's got past Doug Carter, who qualified so well, but Carter down to 8th now, and through the old hairpin. Mark Boot is now coming under pressure from Joe Spencer. We're seeing as they make their way up towards McLean's if he can find a way through. Meanwhile, there's battles going all the way through the field as we expect in 750 Motor Club racing, and that is Andrew Gord just ahead of Ian Childs as they make their way out of the old hairpin. You've got Andrew Kimpton in the SR4, an even older model of the Radical sports car series of cars. Down the straight the leaders come. And did Joe Spencer make that move? He didn't. But Mark Boot is also closing in on Ash Hicklin. That was a gap of over a second before the beginning of the lap. So Boot is sort of being propelled on from Joe Spencer being in his mirrors, and they're not far behind Ash Hicklin, but a mistake through the S's there from Mark Boot. Is that going to allow Joe Spencer to challenge down to the hairpin? Yeah, Spencer carried a lot more speed down through the Fogarty S's there. He's not going to make an attack into Melbourne, but he's only about 2 car lengths now behind that car, and they've closed in a bit on Ashley Hicklin as well in 5th position. So it's a good drive this from Joe Spencer on his debut in the championship. Not unexpected though, I don't think, given his form that he's shown in different championships over the years. Over the line he goes again, so certainly the gap between Hicklin and Boot has come down to about 0.6 of a second now, and Spencer's gone with him. Boot there locking up a little bit as they went into Redgate. Absolutely snatched the inside wheel, but he kept his momentum on. He's right underneath the rear wing of the SR3 of Ashley Hicklin. The SR3 tends to have a bit more downforce, I think, but the slippery PR6 a bit quicker maybe down the straights because of that. You've got Doug Carter and Robert Rees not far behind, but Boot really quick through the old hairpin. He's still right on the tail of Ash Hicklin. Can he challenge up towards McLean's? Let's see. He's looking to the inside. Hicklin doesn't let him have that. There was nothing between the two radicals there. The SR3 ahead of the pair of PR6s has allowed Joe Spencer to challenge. He got the run through the corners. He could take the racing line, but no way through. These aero cars so quick through the corners here and makes overtaking quite difficult. It does indeed. This is the battle for 3rd place within Class A as well. So they're heading down the exhibition straight over that little crest and down towards the Fogarty S's. A look being made there by Mark Boot, number 26, to try and find a way past Ashley Hicklin, but he still can't quite make that work. These both in Class A cars. It's a Class B car for Joe Spencer, and he gets a much better run through the chicane now to try and run alongside Mark Booth there. He'll have the inside line down towards Melbourne hairpin, but he won't be able to make it through. But he gets a better traction out of the corner, and he gets alongside one of them. I thought he might get past both of them, but he couldn't get past either of them in the end. And now Doug Carter's coming into this as well. And diving up the inside goes Mark Booth. So he was the one who looked like he was going to lose a place, so it gains a place. He dived up the inside of Ash Hicklin, coming through the Goddard hairpin. As you say, Doug Carter joining in this now. It's a 4-car battle, and Carter's challenging Joe Spencer. Joe Spencer looking in his mirrors, but Ash Hicklin now goes up the inside of Mark Boot. Great racing in this opening round of the RLM Racing Bikesports Championship. And in that 5th position is Mark Boot. Then in 6th is Ash Hicklin. 7th is Joe Spencer, who's got Doug Carter still challenging him. Doug Carter, who's been racing with the 750 Motor Club in this championship for such a long time now, having a great run there, trying to get past Joe Spencer. Couldn't do it though. He did qualify 4th, of course, Doug Carter, and he's shot back down the order. He's climbing his way back through again, so he's got work to do. Meanwhile, out front, Josh Smith still leads by 4.5 seconds from Joe Stables. Joe Locke, another 3.2 seconds back in 3rd. Josh Smith really picked up his pace, a 1 minute 28.98 now, and that's a second and a half quicker than what Joe Stables has been doing. Battle for 5th place then, heading its way through Coppice and then down the exhibition straight on lap number 8 with 4 minutes of the race left to go towards the left-hander at Fogarty's, and the gaps have just opened up a little bit this time, Josh. Looks like Josh Smith has broken the lap record as well with that pace, but their 2nd place driver, Joe Stables, the reigning champion in an SR3. Now, he's pulling off the circuit, is Joe Stables, so a problem there. I thought he was slow turning through the hairpin, so the 2nd place driver, Joe Stables, has pulled off to the right-hand side of the circuit. You can just see him there hiding behind the brow of the hill. Out of the race then is Joe Stables. He's getting out of the car. So the reigning champion out in round 1 of the 2019 championship. That means that Chris Breen, number 2, moves into the lead of Class B, and 2nd in Class B will now be Joe Spencer. Look at how Mark Boot has pulled away from Ash Hicklin after passing him. A personal best lap from Boot in doing that too, and that is actually quicker than Chris Breen up ahead of him. Boot in Class A, as Ian mentioned. Class B now being led by Chris Breen. Joe Spencer 2nd in that class, and Adrian Reynaud 3rd, but side by side through the Craner curves. Yeah, Joe Spencer trying to get past Ash Hicklin there. He couldn't quite make it through. Still probably just finding the limits of this car, which is relatively new to him. And he just tucks back in behind Hicklin now, but casting that blue and orange machine for the man from Cumbria. Very much coming back into contention once again. Up to 7th place, of course, with the demise of Joe Stables half a lap or so ago. Making their way out of McLean's up towards Coppice Corner once again, with the number 15 car of Robert Rees just in the foreground of the trot there. He was in 8th place. It's Adrian Reynaud and Tony Barwell
rounding out the top 10. Just the 2 classes surviving now, with all of our Class C runners ruled out.
Side by side is Doug Carter now coming up alongside Joe Spencer. Spencer sort of lost a bit of ground there to Ash Hicklin after his challenge, but through the corner Spencer is very quick indeed and just breaks away once again from Doug Carter. So 6th and 7th positions, these 2 Radical PR6s, with the tuned engine in the Carter car and the standard motorcycle engine in the Joe Spencer machine there in 6th position. They make their way up towards the hairpin to complete another lap. This is the completion of lap 9. So we get a couple of more laps in the timed element before the last lap board will go out.
Yeah, absolutely. So here comes this group of cars disputing 5th, 6th and 7th positions overall in different classes. Of course, there's the 73 car, which is Alistair Smart in 15th position. Just locking up a little bit, it looked to me, as he was braking for Melbourne that time.
Really does look spectacular with the camera there on the inside of the corner, which we don't always get. Great stuff from Alpha Live, who are producing all the footage here. Some great shots on the inside of the hairpins to really exaggerate how dramatic it is for these drivers inside the cars as they turn into some of these corners.
Here's this battle then, Joe Spencer and Doug Carter, 6th and 7th. The closest battle out on circuit. Josh Smith, by the way, now leads by nearly 12 seconds from Joe Locke, as they're side by side, and it's not Stables, I beg your pardon, it's Carter, who had a look up the inside of Joe Spencer there, but couldn't find a way through. He's going to have another go, though. He's going to get past, I think, down the exhibition straight, and he's done it. And that probably is an example of where the more powerful Class A car can really have the advantage.
Absolutely, but Joe Spencer is quicker through the chicane, through the Fogarty S's there. So can he challenge down into the Melbourne hairpin? He looks to the outside of car number 5, which is Doug Carter, who moves ahead of him up into 6th place, but Carter runs out wide, trying to get the cut back then. Is Spencer, but that puts him on the outside line for Goddard, so he tucks in back behind Doug Carter as they turn their way through the Goddard hairpin, and they will be about to start their penultimate lap of the race.
Yeah, already Josh Smith has gone on to that penultimate lap. We've now run out of time, and so we'll get the last lap board shown next time around. But are we going to have another change here between Carter and Spencer? I suspect possibly not. We look now at this battle for 9th and 10th. It's Adrian Reynaud and Tony Barwell up the inside, and the number 4 car there trying to make his way through. It's the battle between the 2 Radical SR3s and the very experienced Adrian Reynaud, well, best known, I guess, as a race car constructor. It is that holds on to 9th place at the moment.
Yeah, Reynaud was back in his first ever car, his Formula Ford 1600 from 1973, just a few weeks ago, but returning back to this Radical, which he won the Bikesports Championship in just a few years ago. The car that I think he's tweaked a little bit, hasn't he? Using the Reynaud way just to put his own look on this Radical SR3, and he hangs on here to 9th place ahead of Tony Barwell. Up towards Coppice Corner, the 2 of them go, and Reynaud's car in that Golf livery as well, looking really good.
Scott Mittel's car is about to go back out into the race by the looks of it, with the last lap board just having been shown. He's just joined behind the leader, Josh Smith, who's just gone on to start his final lap of the race.
Good way, though, I guess, to just make sure the car's sorted after that spin. I'm sure the Mittel team there were just sorting it out, and it's a good way just to shake the car down ahead of the race later. There's Reynaud, then you can see that rear wing, not as standard on an SR3. That's a part of his changes to that car, to put his own look on that. So they'll be starting their last lap very shortly. 9th and 10th place then for Reynaud and Barwell. Both these drivers are in Class B. And Joe Spencer, has he got a problem? He's just ahead of this battle now, so he's fallen behind Robert Rees. Now, has Spencer got a problem? Is that why he's been slower down the straights, I wonder? Meanwhile, big challenge from Tony Barwell, who dives up the inside of Adrian Reynaud and gets that 9th place. It might be 8th before the end because of the ailing car of Spencer. Yeah,
it's a much slower lap for Spencer last time through. It was in the 1 minute 40s. He has been in the 1 minute 33s earlier on. We're watching Spencer now as he comes down through the Craner curves towards the old hairpin. We're watching out for the race leader, though, who is already down towards the Melbourne hairpin for the final time, which is Josh Smith. Here he is now, turning his way through the Melbourne loop and then climbing back up the hill towards Goddard for the final time. And we've not seen a lot of him during the course of this race because he's been out in front on his own, really. Even that safety car period couldn't disrupt him, and obviously the demise of Joe Stables didn't hinder his progress either. So it is Josh Smith over the line now to take the checker flag to win round 1 of the 2019 RLM Racing Bikesports Championship.
dominated in qualifying, and really in the end he dominated the race as well after the demise of Joe Stables. But in second place is Joe Locke, who is there to take the flag. He in the end really pulled away from Chris Breen as well, but Chris Breen in his SR3, the first of the SR3s, wins Class B. So across the line goes Chris Breen. Meanwhile,
I think we have lost Joe Spencer as well somewhere during the course of this final lap, because he hasn't come through in the battle I was expecting to see him in. So you've got Adrian Reynaud there. He is going to come through and take, I think, 8th. Well, it will be 9th place in the because he's fallen behind Tony Barwell, but he will have gained the place from Joe Spencer. We've seen Doug Carter go through. Here's Robert Rees then to take 7th. 8th will be Tony Barwell now. 9th will be Adrian Reynaud, and then 10th I don't think will be Joe Spencer. We might need to wait for a few moments. I think it's probably going to be Ian Charles that's going to come through next in the number 24 car.
But here's Spencer, so he will take the flag there inside the top 10, but there's work to do there, isn't there, for the Spencer team ahead of race 2, which will take place this afternoon. Across the line there goes Ian Charles. There's a good battle for 12th place. Is Andrew Gord going to hold on ahead of Andrew Kempton? The SR3 ahead of the lone SR4 in the field, and behind almost side by side as well. Alistair Smart beating Mark Grayson to 14th place. And because of the safety car period, we didn't really get much traffic, did we? So everybody's going to get their full complement of laps, 12 laps in this, the opening round of the season. Out of the hairpin, another battle to watch to the line. This is Sean Peters just ahead of Neil Harris. Neil Harris tried to drag up alongside him, but can't quite get that position away. So that really shows you we do get battles all the way through the field in these races.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. And Sean Peters there, the ex-Cockshut Cup racer, going well. But here are the results then of the first round of the 2019 RLM Racing Bike Sports Championship. Josh Smith winning by 12.5 seconds from Joe Locke. It was nearly another 10 seconds back to Chris Breen, the Class B winner, in 3rd place. Mark Boot was 4th, and Hicklin, Carter, Rees, Barwell, Reynaud and Joe Spencer just clinging on to that final place in the top 10 despite those problems towards the end. Ian Charles was 11th, then Andrew Gord, Andrew Kimpton, Alistair Smart and Mark Grayson. Right at the back there, he did get out right at the end of the race. Scott Mittell getting a lap of testing in basically ahead of the second RLM Racing Bike Sports Championship race a little bit later on. So the cars are heading in on their slowing down lap. Stephen Bell, of course, he was an early retirement, and Jeff Farmer even earlier than that on the first lap of the race. So the cars, I can see, are just now being brought in towards Parc Ferme. The leading finishers are stopping down in the pit lane. James Winstanley, the 750 Motor Club's communication manager, making sure that all of the drivers that we need to talk to are being stopped and headed then in the general direction of the podium, which is where once again we find Jacob Harris.
James, if you can hear me, have I got your phone number?
And Jacob will be with us in just a moment, just as soon as the drivers get up to him on the podium. We've got one more race to go before we'll have what will be a shorter lunch break than we might have expected. This is going to be for the Demons Weeks and Yokohama Low Cost Championship, so one more race to come. But first of all, we need to get drivers in the general direction of the podium. I think they are going to be climbing up there. I can see Leanne Fahy is ready and waiting with the garland as well. And there are now drivers heading up towards the podium as well. So Jacob, down to you.
Back down here at the podium, we are just waiting for Josh Smith, winner of that race. Here is Josh, come and have a quick chat with us. Some blistering pace you're showing out there.
Yeah, it was good. Controlled the race from the start. Safety car obviously came in and bunched us back up again. A little bit off of pace from this morning, but I just don't want to push the car too hard and risk a DNF. And first race here, and we've got everything we wanted. Really, we got a pole, a win overall, and a new lap record. So it's good for us.
Yeah, just how do you manage to set a new lap record around here? What's the secret?
Well, we've got a great team behind us. Bridgewater and Taunton College, all the boys run the car. Cars immense every single time. We've got 2 other customer cars out with us this year as well. And our 2 sponsors, Oakmont and Spring, they allow us to be here. But yeah, meticulous workshop prep all the time. Bit of track testing before, and yeah, we got the winning formula in OSS, and we're hoping to move it into bike sports.
Sounds like you got it absolutely nailed. Congratulations and all the best for this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up we have Joe Locke. Joe, we're being told to come slightly this way. I think it might be a signal issue. Joe, tell us a bit about that race. Tough going out there.
Yeah, the tyres seemed to go off as well towards the end of the race, but Josh was a bit too quick. I couldn't get anywhere near him, so I think next time we'll have to work a bit harder, so I don't know.
Is there anything you can do in the lunch break to maybe get a bit closer to him this afternoon?
I don't know. Is the honest answer. I don't know. I'll have to ask him.
Yeah. Fair enough. And next couple of rounds then, do you reckon you can get back and work with the team?
I think, yeah, over time, I think I'll get quicker and quicker, and he's obviously the target to beat, so that's my aim for this season.
Brilliant. Well, we'll look forward to that over the course of the season. Thanks for talking to us, Joe. Next victim, who have we got? We've got Chris Breen. Chris, hard-fought battle there.
Yeah, I had a good start, and race went a little bit quiet then. The safety car came out, and I was caught sleeping a little bit on the safety car restart, but I wouldn't have had a chance to catch these two anyway. They're just a bit quicker than me. Shame that Joe had a problem, but I'm happy with that. I'll take that.
We haven't spoken much about the venue yet here today. Just how do you like Donington Park as a circuit?
Yeah, it's great circuit. It's nice with the dips and the high parts and some late apexes, lots of fast right corners, and it's a great circuit. And we wanted to say thanks to Tim Gray for preparing the car for me and the team.
Brilliant. And this afternoon's race number 2. Hoping for a bit more?
Yeah, starting P4, I think, for race 2. So it'd be nice to get a bit more, but we'll see what it brings.
Brilliant. Thanks for talking to us, and all the best this afternoon. There are your class winners for the Bikesports race number 1. Next race is just about to go out, so Ian and Josh will hand back to you in the comms box.